First panel discussion would be regarding the mountain tourism, and I would like to invite the moderator, Ms. Nagmana Hashmi. She is former ambassador of Pakistan to China, European Union, including Belgium, Luxembourg, Ireland as well. So our first panelist is Mr. Trommsdorff. He's a French national and he's engineer by profession, but he's merging his profession with his mountaineering passion. The next panelist is Mr. Yannick Rezeni. He's a passionate mountaineer. The other one is Mr. Victor Sauder. He's British mountaineer, writer, and high mountain guide. And the last panelist would be Mr. Aftabur Rahman Rana. He is managing director of Pakistan Tourism Development Corporation.
Started the panel discussion on mountains because we were running late, so you'll have to wait for your tea till we end this first panel discussion. Now we'll come straight to the topic of this panel discussion, which is the mountains of Pakistan and the tourism potential and the problems and the issues that we need to face and the things that we need to do to attract more and more people to the mountains of Pakistan without affecting the ecosystems there and while focusing on the socio-economic development of these areas, also protect the environment. Now, as we are all aware that the northern areas of Pakistan is a place like no other in the world, where 3 mountain ranges meet at the same time. That is why we have some of the highest mountain peaks in Pakistan. 8 of the first 14 are found in 1 square kilometer of area in northern areas. And a lot of people don't know that the largest number of glaciers outside of the Arctic region are also in Pakistan, and absolutely fascinating valleys and lakes. But we are all mostly aware of the beauty and potential, but we will come straight to our panelists here to see how they view the northern areas of Pakistan, how they see mountain tourism from the perspective from their perspective as visitors to these areas, as involved in mountaineering, trekking, leisure tourism, and listen to what their concerns are and where we can improve things and what are the recommendations they would have to for us to put in our report for the government with a view to improving the facilities and for people, particularly from foreign tourists and local tourists visiting Pakistan. So I would first of all start with you, Christian. Thank you very much for traveling all the way to come to Islamabad to be with us in this panel. You have been coming to Pakistan for over 35 years now, and you have probably climbed all the peaks in Pakistan and know more about the tourism sector and the mountaineering sector and the region better than any one of us present here. So I would first like to begin with you asking, in your view, what are the factors that are inhibiting people, particularly mountaineers and trekkers and adventure tourism people, from coming to Pakistan like the way they go to the other mountains of the world?
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here, and thanks for the invitation. And yes, I did come all the way to Pakistan. This will probably be my shortest trip ever to Pakistan. I've been probably 15 times, and each time between 1 and 2 and sometimes 2.5 months. So I probably spent over 2 years of my life in Pakistan. And the last time I came was just before the pandemic. I brought my mom for her 80th birthday to the northern areas, and we had a 3-week trip also with a group of clients, because I'm also a mountain guide. And we did kind of what I would call a nature/cultural jeep safari across the northern areas with some trekking in between also. And the first time I came to Pakistan was just before, so it's not 35 years, it's, let's say 25 years, was just before September 11. And just after September 11 in 2002, I was the only international mountain guide to bring clients to Pakistan to what you call the Golden Peak, which we call it Spantic, and actually Victor, who is going to be a speaker, was one of the two who did this beautiful first ascent of what we call the Golden Pillar, so the Golden Peak or Spantic, 2002, and of course with what happened between 2001 and 2002 with September 11, it made me take a totally different view on how the world functions, and especially the geopolitical side. And it made me realize how much us Westerners were conditioned by Western propaganda. And just as there's propaganda in every society, here in China, everywhere. And with that respect, I would really like to welcome the initial remarks which were made by some of the introduction speakers, keynote speakers, about the spirit, what I would call the spirit of international openness. So as mountaineers, we have been, we know when we start mountaineering in France or in Europe, in the Alps, we ignore borders, they don't exist. When I climb a peak just next to where I live in France, I can have 1 foot in Switzerland, 1 foot in Italy, and sit on a rock in France. It's a border between the three countries. It's a mountain called Mont de l'An. And so we just ignore borders, and now we have the chance in the European Union that we can ignore them. You know, we can travel easily. We have access everywhere to public space. There's no permits, there's no fees, there's no prior visa, nothing. So we have this huge chance inside the European Union, inside the Alps, which has allowed a massive development of mountain tourism, and the numbers of course are of no comparison with what's going on here. So now if we come to Pakistan, yes, you do have the most beautiful mountains in the world, I can guarantee that, because I've been on 50 expeditions on high altitude peaks between 6,000 and 8,000 meters. I've climbed Everest without oxygen alone. But the most beautiful mountains are in Pakistan for sure, in the Karakoram range. So I would say the Karakoram range, which is mostly Pakistani, but also Indian and Chinese, of course, with the Chinese border, are the most impressive mountains. They are undeveloped for two reasons. One is, of course, the nature, which prevents a massive development, which is good. But also, you know, with what is possible given the natural barriers, it's fairly undeveloped because of, I think, some of the main factors have been mentioned by the keynote speakers, so I won't they apply to the mountain tourism. And of course, the first one is the image of Pakistan. The first barrier is the image. And, you know, today, if you compare the image of Pakistan with the image of Nepal, for example, in Europe, there's absolutely no comparison, and it's irrational. It's not based on rational facts. It's totally based on affection, on previous connections with those countries, etc. So in Nepal, there was a civil war going on for quite a long time. French tour operators we kept sending tourists. There was a civil war, but no one knew really about it in France, and we kept going. Here, as you know, there have been many events, even since September 11, a lot of political instability. You're in a key strategic, how can I say, in between strategic countries like China, India, and indirectly the US, of course. But now, as I understand, there's more, hopefully a better, more stable political future for your country, and hopefully better international access possibilities, whether it's from China, as it's been said, or from through maybe a developing private sector for airlines, for budget airlines, etc. So this will facilitate. So if you facilitate the access, the visa, the price of access, then people will come for sure, and they will come. And of course, there's these beautiful high peaks, but the main mountain tourism is just visiting the place. It's just normal tourism. We can call it jeep safari, because with the jeeps you can access some even more, a little bit remote places, but just normal tourism. And the numbers I got from my neighbor here is that in the northern areas this season, or maybe last season, 800,000 people visited the northern area. So of course most of them are Pakistani, and that's what you want to develop. There's a small number of foreign people, and so maybe there will be some discussions about trekking, expeditions, permits, etc. But we should not forget that the basic mountain tourism is just visiting, just showing the natural and cultural heritage which you have in the Pakistani mountains. And on that note, I just want to mention that mountain climbing, alpinism, as we do it in the Alps, we call it alpine style alpinism, which is respectful, lightweight style, has been classified as a UNESCO intangible heritage by France, Switzerland, and Italy as a joint effort of our alpine stakeholders. So it's not just a sport, it's also an intangible activity and a cultural heritage. So the potential is huge. Other barriers, when we come, maybe some of our other speakers will talk about specifically the activities which are mostly trekking and expeditions. Once we go up a little bit, it's great that up until 6,500 meters, there's no permit, no fees. And then we start having, a more complicated system when we go up from 6.5. But again, this is not the majority of the tourism which you will want to develop, but it has an importance in the image and in the communication. And I think recently, with unfortunately accidents, some people who left us, you can see how dangerous these activities are, but also how symbolically strong they are. And of course, the people who climbed all 8,000 meter peaks, you have nationals are heroes, and so the image is very important. So we'll come back to some more details and proposals, but maybe as an introduction, I hope it gives you a picture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll come back to more details in the question answer session and interact.